Welcome to this lecture. This lecture is a short lecture on the keyword which is let keyword and const keyword. So first of all, let's see about the let keyword. So ECMAScript, which is 2015, which was the upgrade on 2015, and ECMAScript is the company or basically organization that is responsible for upgrading or updating the content of the JavaScript. So they introduced two important keyword, which is the JavaScript keywords, and that was let and a const. And first of all, let's see about the let in this lecture. So these two keywords provide the block scope variables and the constant in the JavaScript. So first of all, let's see something about the scope. So let me just run my that is inspect limit over here, and on the console let me just quickly clear this. And now let me show you, let me just create some variable. So you know how to create the variable, which is basically with the var keyword. And let me just give the name as the car name over here, and let me just run this. And now when I just create the function, and it will be my name method, and here you can simply go down, and here if you just see, this var can be accessible inside this function because this has the global scope. So when I just say console.log and give the car name, and just let me close this down and go over here, and now when I just call my name, which is the method, then you could quickly see here it will just log the car name, which is Maruti. But what you can do now is, instead of creating this function or basically this variable, let me create the variable, same variable with the let keyword. So this let keyword was designed by the ECMAScript in 2012. So let's see how this let keyword runs. So let me just run this quickly. Now you could see here, this let keyword is saying that it has the syntax error because we can't just redeclare the variable which was created with the var with this let. So let me just create the another, that would be car, and let me just press enter. Now our car is created. Let me just make use of the same method which we just created over here, and now instead of car name, I'll just say car, which is our this let variable, which is basically the car. So now let me simply run this. Now it's time to call this method, which is my name, and let's see what happens. So if I just create this, then it could see you that it is showing Maruti as this let keyword has some of the scope. But now let's do different, like let me just create our own block, and let me show you something now straight away over here. So when I just say let and yux, and if I just create 2, which is the variable, let me just create this yux variable. Now if I hit enter, it will say undefined as usual, but when I just say yux, it should be small x, and you could see yux is not defined over here. You can simply see that we just created the variable yux with the value of 2, and when I just print this yux outside of this scope, it is not visible. That means it is only visible inside this scope. You can just make use of this yux variable inside this block, not outside of this block. But if you just see, when I just create the same variable with the var keyword, and let me just close my scope first, and if I just run x again, then you could see it will just print 2 because it was created with the var keyword. So when you just create the var keyword, or basically the variable with the var keyword, it will have the global scope. That means it will be visible outside of this scope too. That means you have 2 over here, and it will be visible outside too. So let me just show you something, the example, quick example over here. So I'll just say first that create me the variable that is x10, and let's make this scope and make use of let keyword, and I'll just say 2 over here. and you could see we have now created the same variable x outside of this block, and inside of this block I have created x as a 2. So if I just print x, it will just give 10 but not 2, because this let keyword will create the variable that will be valid inside this scope, but var will create the variable of the global scope that will be visible outside of this block also. But if you make the variable with the let keyword, it will be visible only inside this scope, and it won't be visible outside this scope, which is basically outside this block of a code. So let's see now the another keyword, which is const keyword. So variable defined with the const keyword behave like same as a let variable which we just created over here, except they cannot be reassigned. So let's take some quick example what I'm talking about over here. So I'll just say const. So if you just see that let was the keyword which was responsible for creating the variable like the var keyword, and const keyword will also create the variable. So I'll just say pi, because pi is a constant. So I'll just say 3.14, and it was something like 15. So I just remember this much value for the pi, so I'll just hit enter. Now if I just reassign this pi value to something maybe 3.19, so if I say 3.19 is the new pi value, it will say it won't be assigned, because const is not assignable or reassignable. It will be only reusable. That means when I just do another operation with the pi, let me say, I'll just say I have to change the value of pi by doing some operation. Let me say I want to add 10 to this pi. It is also not valid, because this variable with the const keyword is always the constant. You can't change the value of this constant. It will be only usable. So if I just make use of pi, it is valid. So if you want to make use of this pi, you can make use of this, but you can't change the value of pi. You can do something like, if you want to do the sum, you can just do like 10 plus and the pi, it is valid, and you can see we are getting some value. But if you do something like pi and pi plus 10, which in here you are changing the value of constant, it is not possible. You can only reuse the value of constant, but you can't change. So it was the new keyword that was assigned or introduced by the ECMAScript, which was responsible for upgrading the content of the JavaScript in 2015. So it is a useful example of the let keyword and the const keyword, which is also doing the same tasks but in a different manner to create the variables in the JavaScript. So this will be wrap for this lecture. See you in the next one.